The most terrifying legends of the wizarding world begin with massive wings tearing through the sky. But did you know that the breath of dragons shaped the very essence of ancient magic? The truth is, these creatures were born from untamable fire and fury. Many Muggle legends speak of loyal dragon riders, but in our world, this is merely a tragic fairy tale. Because subjugating a dragon goes completely against the rebellious nature of magic itself. They are the Earth's first magic bearers. The dragon heartstrings in the cores of wands are proof of this immense power. Throughout history, wizards have tried to control this wild power, and often paid for it with their lives. That was the real reason dragon breeding was completely banned by the Warlocks Convention of 1709. However, these strict bans never stopped lovers of dangerous creatures, like Rubius Hagrid. Hagrid secretly hatching a Norwegian ridgeback named Norbert in a wooden cabin is the greatest example of this dangerous passion. Across the globe, there are 10 different pure-blood dragon breeds ruling their territories with fear. The Ukrainian Ironbelly, chained in the dark vaults of Gringotts Wizarding Bank, is among the largest and most ruthless. Even the army of the Dark Lord Voldemort had great difficulty recruiting these massive monsters to their ranks. Because dragons are not war machines, but absolutely disloyal masters of chaos. It is exactly because of this uncontrollable nature that they were specially chosen for the first task of the Triwizard Tournament. The champions entering the tournament had to face the greatest terror of their lives to steal a golden egg. Cedric Diggory used his quick wit and a flawless transfiguration charm against the Swedish short snout. With its silvery blue scales, this dragon spewed its flames into the arena with deadly accuracy. Harry Potter, however, was matched with the Hungarian Horntail, the most savage and dangerous of their kind. With its black scales, cat-like yellow eyes, and razor-sharp spiked tail, it was an absolute nightmare. Even Albus Dumbledore watched with deep concern in these moments, wondering if the champions would survive. Hermione Granger covered her face with her hands in absolute terror in the stands, not daring to look. Ron Weasley, on the other hand, was practically frozen in fear that his friend would turn to ash amidst those massive flames. Draco Malfoy waited in his corner with a malicious smirk to see Harry's tragic fall. However, above the arena that day, it would once again be proven that true greatness lies not in wingspan, but in courage. Harry Potter surviving the Hungarian Horntail, not with his wand, but with his wit and broomstick, is engraved in wizarding history. Because you cannot defeat a dragon with brute force. It is the absolute ruler of fire and the sky. So, how do these ancient monsters, with such immense power, reproduce and continue their lineage? Dragon eggs must be incubated not in an ordinary nest, but in the very heart of a pure and blazing fire. Their mothers keep them alive by breathing fire over the eggs, because for them, fire is not destruction, but life itself. Even today, expert wizards like Charlie Weasley risk their lives in the rugged mountains of Romania to protect this wild nature. Taming a wild dragon is impossible. The massive burn scars on Charlie's arms are a brutal proof of this truth. Even over the green hills of Britain, breeds like the common Welsh Green and Hebridean Black once soared freely. The Ministry of Magic has been waging a relentless battle with memory charms for centuries to hide these massive creatures from Muggles. For instance, during the Ilfracombe incident, a giant dragon landing on a Muggle beach turned into an absolute nightmare for the Ministry. Now, let me tell you a shocking secret that changed the course of history. It is said that the Great Fire that reduced London to ashes in 1666 started in a bakery, but the real culprit was an out-of-control young Welsh green dragon. However, the greatest secret dragons carry is not in their flames or scales, but in the blood flowing through their veins. That legendary discovery by Albus Dumbledore, which went down in history, revealed 12 different magical uses for dragon's blood. From healing potions to the darkest alchemy experiments, this blood is one of the most valuable substances in the wizarding world. Even today, expert wizards like Charlie Weasley risk their lives in the rugged mountains of Romania to protect this wild nature. Taming a wild dragon is impossible. The massive burn scars on Charlie's arms are a brutal proof of this truth. Even over the green hills of Britain, breeds like the common Welsh green and Hebridean black once soared freely. The Ministry of Magic has been waging a relentless battle with memory charms for centuries to hide these massive creatures from Muggles. For instance, during the Ilfracombe incident, a giant dragon landing on a Muggle beach turned into an absolute nightmare for the Ministry. Now, let me tell you a shocking secret that changed the course of history. It is said that the Great Fire that reduced London to ashes in 1666 started in a bakery, but the real culprit was an out-of-control young Welsh green dragon. However, the greatest secret dragons carry is not in their flames or scales, but in the blood flowing through their veins. That legendary discovery by Albus Dumbledore, which went down in history, revealed 12 different magical uses for dragon's blood. From healing potions to the darkest alchemy experiments, this blood is one of the most valuable substances in the wizarding world. There are many different dragon breeds living all over the world, not just in Britain and Romania, but from New Zealand to Peru. For example, the Antipodean opali is a New Zealand legend that illuminates the valley with its pearlescent scales and deadly beauty. The Chinese fireball, with its scarlet scales and lion-like face, is considered one of the most dangerous and intelligent beasts of the East. For centuries, Chinese wizards have strived to protect the overwhelming power of these fireballs and the eggs they consider sacred. However, among all these species, the Peruvian vipertooth, known for its venomous fangs, is the most deadly and stealthy. In the 19th century, their numbers increased so much that the International Confederation of Wizards had to send a special extermination squad. Because when a dragon population spirals out of control, the worlds of Muggles and wizards are brought to the brink of utter annihilation. It is told that in ancient times, some dark wizards tried to use dragons as weapons in wars. However, contrary to the tales of dragon riders, these massive reptiles have never submitted to the command of a master. The history of magic is full of stories of arrogant wizards who thought they tamed a dragon only to perish in flames. In fact, dragons are magic itself. Trying to rule them is like trying to chain the wildest storm of nature. Even as their heartstrings channel magic within our wands, they actually preserve that rebellious fire inside them. Hermione Granger faced this terrifying truth while wandering in the restricted section of the library. The 12 uses of dragon's blood were not just formulas, but also doors opening to the darkest secrets of alchemy. Great alchemists like Nicholas Flamel had always been curious about the effects of this blood on immortality and creating gold. But dragon's blood is not a substance to be taken lightly. The wrong mixture can instantly melt a potion cauldron. The perfection Severus Snape demanded from his students in the potions dungeon actually stemmed from the unforgiving nature of these deadly ingredients. A single drop of dragon's blood could instantly turn a weak spell into a massive and devastating explosion. Think of that massive Ukrainian Ironbelly in the depths of Gringotts. Even if it remains in the dark for years, it loses none of its rage. That pale, scarred creature was the greatest danger at the heart of what is considered the safest bank in the wizarding world.
Even the goblins could only control this monster through pain and fear, forcing it back with special clankers. Yet this submission is merely an illusion. The fury that will be unleashed when the shackles break is inevitable. Just like that legendary moment when Harry Potter and his friends jumped on the back of a dragon to escape those dark vaults. On the back of this giant creature thirsting for freedom, Harry felt exactly why dragons could never be tamed. Because the sky belongs to them, and you cannot imprison a dragon underground forever. Well, where exactly does the origin of these massive creatures trace back to? The oldest legends of the wizarding world whisper that dragons were born from the pure fire at the center of the earth. They are not merely monsters of flesh and bone, but physical embodiments of magical energy. The existence of massive dragons darkening the sky in ancient wars has even passed into Muggle history as fear-filled myths. That is why, when the International Statute of Secrecy went into effect, the most effort was spent hiding these massive predators.
Hidden dragon sanctuaries all over the world are isolated from the outside world by impenetrable protective charms. Brave wizards like Charlie Weasley accompany them in these sanctuaries, respecting the wild nature of dragons. Even though Rubeus Hagrid always had a place in his heart for a dragon, Norbert's departure taught him this bitter truth. You can love a dragon, but a dragon will never love you. Their greatest gift to the wizarding world is that unshakable power they bestow upon the cores of our wands. Hermione Granger's wand also carried a dragon heartstring. Combined with her intellect, this core made the most complex spells flawless. On the other hand, Bellatrix Lestrange's wand carried the same core. Because dragon cores do not question their owner's intent, they only reflect power. According to Garrick Ollivander's notes, these wands are the easiest to turn to the dark arts, whose allegiance is hard-won but can change quickly. For centuries, wizards have tried to understand, use, and dominate these massive creatures. But as Harry Potter understood when he faced the Hungarian Horntail in that arena, some powers are meant only to be respected.
They are the fiery lords of the wizarding world's sky, the living representatives of magic's rebellious and untamable spirit. Whether chained in dark vaults or flying freely over rugged mountains, dragons will always remain legends. But what if this ancient power we have trapped in our wands and thought we ruled for centuries one day decides to spiral out of control and burn its masters? Could this magical world, born from the fire of dragons, be turned to ash by their fire once again?